in this live stream, I have the pleasure of being joined by one of the, or if not the most prolific Hex OG content creator from back in the day, from the beginning. So with no further ado, Mr. Crypto Coffee in the house.
Hello, everybody. Good to be with a fellow Matt. Good to see you again. Glad you're still doing your thing with Power City.
Yeah, man. 2 Matts back on stream. It's been probably, nearly a couple of years or about a year and a half. Yeah, it's been a while, but time goes fast. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, all things considered. Very optimistic. I know there's still obviously much work to be done, but I mean, with the SEC case, what more can you ask for? That's about as powerful of a win as we can get. And
it's great.
Tides are turning.
I mean, let's actually have a look at this because I want to see. I just saw Richard's post, and people are trying to palm it off as like the SEC stopped pursuing, right? But
of course, you gotta you gotta set the record straight, And I love everybody in the community who's actually telling the real story, but all the haters just don't want to let it go of trying to twist it as if Richard got off on some technicality, which it was way more than that. It was a hardcore win on lack of jurisdiction and failure to state a claim.
Exactly, and I like the way Richard lays it out straight. I beat the SEC in court. The SEC did not drop its case against me. But yeah, man, listen, every time I think like everything's dead, and I'm sure I speak for many people, I come and watch some of your content. You're an animal. You're on Instagram. You're on obviously YouTube. You're making good tutorials. You're streaming. You're on X, and it's never like crazy hopium. It's just level-headed, calm, and you always lay out the facts.
Well, I think we just got to keep the story going and keep the dream going. A lot of people in crypto, they give up on their coins and their narratives, and that's why most coins don't last more than a couple months, maybe usually less than one cycle. And in Hex and PulseChain, you have this anomaly of consistent people that are building and thinking for the long term, which I do believe will win in the end. Obviously, time will tell. It's easy to say, oh, survivorship bias, right? Because there's only a couple coins that actually survive the test of time. But the one thing that those all have in common are people that believe, that drive the narrative forward. We've got the technology. So really now it's just about telling the story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, whatever you want to say about PulseChain, hexagons, whatever, you can't say that they're not committed, right? There's not a group of people that are, you could say in a good way, obsessed, in a bad way, batshit crazy, some of them, but there's a lot of people that believe in it, right?
We're all a bit delusional, but the only difference between, delusional and genius is time, I hope.
Indeed. For you, how is 2025 playing out so far? Did you, after the Trump inauguration, or, did you think it would be different? Were you believing the hype? It was going to be this crazy bull run?
Yeah, well, I mean, nothing. No, I don't necessarily think that it was going to come without a little bit of a rocky road. I mean, when you have this big of a change in the political system, you're going to have some turbulence. It's inevitable. I just think that the pattern matching that I've seen with all these short-term tariff fears, they don't seem to be very serious in the long term. They seem to always end up in negotiation tactics. It's obviously always going to be a coordinated effort to frame Trump as the bad guy or the root of all of our problems. But he's not, it's just the economy has to cool off a little bit. We're kind of debatably, we've been in a recession. If you go by the old definition of recession, we're suffering for all the money printing that we did during COVID. And there are forces at play here, I think, that are much greater than who you're told to be angry at on the mainstream media.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's not just people. We like it black and white, right? Like when this guy gets in power, it's going to be good, and
it's his fault. And it's very binary.
And as we know, life isn't binary, right? It's multiple shades of gray. There's always many things going on. Obviously, America's going through their tariffs and trying to sort that out, obviously, which shook all the markets. But we saw the stock market and all the legacy finance take a big dip, then bounce back. We've seen a kind of crypto pump in the last few days, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum up quite a lot, over 10% in the last couple of days.
It's good to see. It's good to see. I mean, everybody's been wrecked, and I think we're so balls deep in PulseChain all the time that we don't realize how miserable the entire market is. There's only so much you can do. There's only so many YouTube videos you can make, and it's not going to make the global economy any better, right? It's not going to make the money printer go burr. So we just got to keep waiting. But yeah, it's good to see Ethereum is up, what, 10%, Bitcoin's up another 10%. But yeah, we've basically ranged sideways for the last couple months, and Ethereum has been a disappointment, although fundamentally, I don't think anything's changed with Ethereum. They still have the best developers, the best technology, the best roadmap. The best, institutional level investors are all hopping on board now with the staking ETFs are coming. It's just taking longer than we expected. And I was going to ask you maybe what your thoughts are on the 4-year cycle, because speaking of black and white, everybody wants the 4-year cycle to be their roadmap of how crypto plays out. But do you think this time maybe is different?
I think so. I do think it's different because everyone was expecting the 4-year cycle, right? 2021 was our last bull market. We had the double top. It was okay. Trump getting in again and thinking, right, that coincides early 2025. It's time for the next 4-year bull cycle, and it hasn't happened. And who knows what's going to happen this year? Hopefully, we do see a bull cycle at some point, but I think it's going to be not as predictable. I think there's going to be pumps, there's going to be dumps. There always is in every asset class, but it's not going to be so predictable as 2017, 2021. 2025, 2029. I think it's going to be more like the stock market, still with more volatility, but it's going to be up and down. And I guess when everyone thinks it's going to go a certain way, a lot of the time it doesn't happen, right? After the Ethereum upgrades, after certain people coming into office and what's not. I mean, as you said, nothing's really changed on paper. Ethereum was what, nearly $4,000 in January?
Yeah, that's true.
It dropped to what, to 1,500 or close? That's a bargain.
Crashed about 60+%. So, I mean, yeah, it is a good deal, in my opinion.
It's a good deal. There's more than enough liquidity. But obviously not financial advice. But yeah, I think that we are going to see pumps and dumps, but it's going to be less like, big bull market, bear market, and maybe multiple mini bulls and bears. That's kind of that's my outlook for now. What about yourself?
We've got anomalies. We've got this time it's different vibes. Like I always say, crypto's never existed in quantitative tightening up until this cycle. Meaning we've had 12 years of 0% interest rates in which crypto could thrive, basically. And yes, every time it dipped 90%, it came back, multiple X's higher than previously. This time, you've got interest rates that are not zero. You've got a new president that's causing a lot of uncertainty. And you've also got Bitcoin peaking before the halving due to institutions coming in. And institutions coming in kind of squeezes out the volatility in things like Bitcoin and Ethereum because they're able to manipulate these ETFs and trade paper Bitcoin and paper Ethereum and soon paper everything else. They can, infinitely short the stuff. They can play the same games that their hedge fund buddies have been doing on Wall Street, which is good and bad. Like you said, it's going to stabilize the markets. We might not see another 80% dip in Bitcoin. It might only be 50 or 60% next time. But all the gains are being squeezed out as well to the upside. So it's good to be in newer stuff, in my opinion, that doesn't have, when PulseChain is ready for an ETF, hopefully we'll be so well off by then that, we'll be celebrating the same situation. But I almost think you don't want that in the early days of a coin, because that explosion of going from 0 holders to thousands of holders is what causes the crazy price growth in most coins early on.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum, they've been around for a while. They're not going anywhere, but on the upside, as Rich has talked about as well, it's like a heavy tree, right? That's getting heavier and heavier. And obviously how many X's can you get out of it, where something like PulseChain and a lot of the RH tickers on there, obviously they're newer. They're finding it's nearly 2 years, right, to the day actually, since PulseChain released in May 2023. But of course, they're finding themselves, and as we've seen, the good thing about crypto, when it starts to rip, it rips, right, and it can rip fast, and especially on coins that aren't in those, on paper, in the top 10 on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. Things like Hex, sometimes we've seen Hex up 50% in a week.
Yeah, in a day that's possible. The lower liquidity is a blessing and a curse. Low liquidity pumps harder and dumps harder, but like you said, Bitcoin's a heavier object to move. Billions and billions of dollars in liquidity means it requires people like Michael Saylor and BlackRock to pump your bags. It's not as retail friendly. There's not as much potential, honestly.
Yeah, me and Jesse have talked about that, and I hear a lot of Bitcoin maxis calling, it's going to be $1 million for a Bitcoin. It's like, who's coming in though, right?
Yeah, sure, maybe, but I mean, like, yeah, let's say that's true. Maybe that happens by 2030. That's still kind of only a 10x. I know 10x should be life-changing money for most people if you have a sizable position, but to really escape the rat race and reach financial escape velocity, I think we kind of need more than a 10x a lot of times for the average retail user. So $1 million by 2030, sure, but let's also factor in inflation along the way. And it's probably not going to be this cycle. I could, maybe 200K this cycle, but we always see these perma bulls calling for $1 million. Inevitably, it'll get there. It's just a matter of when.
That's what funny, we're on the same page there. That's what I think. 200, 250 for Bitcoin. I was at dinner with friends and one was a Bitcoin maxi. Like, no, $1 million. And of course, you're saying that because all you hold is Bitcoin and you have confirmation bias, like we all do about our certain coins and what we're invested in. But yeah, the heavier, who's going to come in, right? There's obviously BlackRock's in already, big institutions are in. Yeah, obviously as time goes on, but this year, I think highly unlikely. But that being said, of course, me and you want to see Bitcoin go up because it's the market leader. A rising tide lifts all ships. When Bitcoin goes up, when Ethereum goes up, crypto's pumping. So, and that flows over into smaller coins, that flows over into the PulseChain ecosystem. Talking about things pumping and easy access, let me share this tweet that you commented on a Kraken post, right? This was quite interesting.
Oh yeah, I did not expect that one to get so many likes. It was just a brief response to Hex True. Shout out to her. She noticed that Kraken might actually list us. Pretty big deal.
Yeah, and is it they've got one of their wallets? Also, I saw something quickly on X earlier.
So I saw that too. I then heard that it was just a mistake, like that wasn't actual. The chain analysis wasn't definitive. Okay. But then you've got them replying on Twitter. And of course, maybe they're going for the engagement bait because we are not listed on their roadmap, even though they keep linking us to their roadmap. I was like, okay, I don't see the logo on there. But why would they be? Either they're just playing into the engagement bait because they know that PulseChain always provides like top engagement, or they actually intend on listing us, which they can because we're not a security. Regulatory clarity.
Well, I mean, it's so good just to go over that again, to have that, off our back. What happened before? We had Uniswap, right? You couldn't find Hex on Uniswap. At one point, people were just using it as an excuse for whatever. But now that's in the rearview mirror, right? People can list us. We're not a security. Who listed Pulse before? We had OKX, right? At the beginning, were they the first? I think
OKX was at the beginning. Then they delisted us after the SEC lawsuit.
Okay. So, well, all we need is one exchange to list us, and that can open the floodgates, hopefully. We've also had I saw another tweet of yours, which looks like PulseChain fiat on-ramp is coming soon too.
Yeah, shout out to Hex Scout. My guess is it's going to be Banksa.com. There's a series of these on-ramps that they allow you to just convert your dollars or your euros at your bank directly into crypto, directly into Pulse. And these limits are pretty high. Right now we've got change now, but the limits are, less than $300. Kind of hard to move the price if you have to buy $300 at a time. So, shout out to them. I'm sure they probably even had to pay an integration fee, I would guess. So thank you guys for paying that fee and connecting with the right people, because we've been trying to go after on-ramps like this for over a year now. I mean, myself and many others. And a lot of times we get to the point where they just say, yeah, we can maybe list you in Europe, but due to the SEC case, we can't list you in the USA. Now it's the perfect storm. It seems like this is going to be a global listing, EU and USA, only 1% fees and $20,000 daily limits. So everybody can now put this onto their websites. Everybody can slap the Banksa widget. And I'm just assuming it might not be Banksa, but it's going to be one of these bigger, Paybis or MoonPay or something like that.
Nice. So this some exchange listings, and then all we need is the man himself streaming. When do you think? When do you think the return of RH?
I think he really wants to be careful about Interpol, and he really wants to get that cleared up. The reason that Richard Hart posted about the DOJ dropping their cyber enforcement unit or their crypto enforcement unit is because that's likely directly related to his issue with Interpol. For people that don't know, one of our community members actually contacted Finland to ask the Interpol branch in Finland who made these wild claims, who put Richard on the red notice. Can you provide some source documents? And they basically referred us back to the FBI. They said, we were only a party to the case. We don't actually have any source documents. So go fuck yourself, basically. And then they redirected us back to the FBI, which smells very fishy. It smells like they, people in the USA potentially using Interpol as like political weaponization just to unfairly persecute people that they think are their enemies. But again, with the funding and the recent priority changes from the Trump administration, it seems like hopefully they're being reassigned to real criminals and actual people causing harm in the world. And it's funny. I ran through this scenario with Grok. I said, hey, theoretically, if I had an Interpol red notice out against me, how would you go about clearing the issue up? And it was like, lawyer up and blah, 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 and lay low and don't communicate. Basically everything Richard's currently doing. And then at the end, I think it said you can expect it to take about 6 to 8 months at the best case, right? And we're about at the 5-month mark here. So hopefully before the year is over, we also see Interpol go away. But I mean, look, Interpol, people describe it as like the Temu FBI, right? It's the SEC, the USA agencies were the real final boss, and this is more of a clearing up, a little bit of the last pieces. So
okay, that's interesting. I do that sometimes too. We run scenarios on ChatGPT or Grok, and it's so cool to be able to see how things will play out like that. Actually,
it is dangerous though, because it also AI hallucinates a lot, and sometimes I think we've learned our lesson when asking Grok, like AI will tell you what you want to hear a lot of times. So just I can make AI tell me that PDI is going to peg to $1 if I want it to. You know what I mean? It'll say, sure, yeah, whatever you want, bro. It doesn't mean it's actually true.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's probably what a lot of people who kept buying PDI on the way down. But talking about coins, there's obviously good coins and bad coins. Obviously, you're a fan. I'm pretty much sure you're a fan of all the RH tickers, the blue chips on PulseChain. Any one you're more of a fan than others, or?
I like them all pretty equally. I've got a pretty equal bag of all three: Hex, PulseChain, PulseX. My INC bag is smaller, but it is, it's significant. And as far as the other 5 to 10% of my random plays, I recently got into like Gas Money token from the Finvesta ecosystem, which just earns me more pulse every day in a constant drip. So even being like 1% of my portfolio, I've been able to stack up thousands of dollars of pulse in the last few months. You are exposed to the volatility of these weird alternative coins, and but to compensate for that, you're getting more of the core assets. Like that one, I've been kind of interested in the Sparta token, which is kind of like almost a PTGC type of situation, but more focused on Hex than PLS. I wish utility coins were in style, man. I really like all the stuff that you guys do at PowerCity. And I do have like some small bags of, I think, some of these utility coins, but the market is degenerate right now. They want coins with dog pictures. They want meme coins. I do have most.
They want butts and boobs and dogs, man. They don't want.
They want dick butts.
They want dick butts. They unfortunately, real DeFi isn't sexy, really, right? It's staking and stability pools and what's not. And I'm sure, listen, everything does well in the bull market, but memes. Talking about memes, what's your take on the whole meme pump tires, the whole meme space on PulseChain?
Well, look, when I realized that there's a higher than zero probability that Richard Hart actually created Most token, or at least one of his developers did, I just decided to throw a pretty good bag at that. And luckily, a lot of other people did too. I think that's probably the premier meme coin that's launched from Pump.Tires so far. Just having Richard Hart's name associated with it and making a meme out of, making a joke out of a bad situation, right? Nobody wants to be the least wanted. Most token, it's got respectable liquidity, volume. It's probably the best meme coin out there from Pump Tires. I'm going to be launching one in about 8 days, so keep an eye out for that. It'll just be, I don't know, half of crypto Twitter is going to hate it, but the quicker you can get over your cognitive dissonance there, hey, it might pump if you're early. Some of you will win, some of you will lose. It's largely going to be zero sum, but I think it's fun to keep people's attention on chain. I think we can all think with a little bit of nuance. Everybody's an adult. Nobody has to buy something just because somebody mentions a ticker symbol, right? But it's the scarcity mindset that causes people to get triggered when, if you think about it from a higher level perspective, whether or not they're buying my future meme coin or most token or whatever, at least that money is staying on the Pulse network. So if crypto is going to be PvP for a little while before retail actually comes in, you might as well create these mini games for people to get their money at least stuck on our chain and not leaving off to Solana and stuff. So it's a gateway drug for a lot of people, right? Some people, they started as degens, maybe on Solana, maybe they're tired of losing money on Pump.Fun, but you can now market meme coins in a way to all these people that, number one, it burns Pulse, it burns PulseX either way. But number two, it gives them a reason, a gateway drug to come have a good time. Maybe they win a little money, maybe they lose some money, maybe they discover through, positive brand associations, longer term plays like Hex or PulseX, and maybe they fall into one of these other longer term narratives.
That's what I hope. I hope that it's a gateway drug. People, they think they're going to get rich overnight. Hopefully they make some money, right? And they don't lose any money. But then they learn, it is like going to the casino a lot of the time.
Well, have you experimented on like Base or Solana with meme coins?
I haven't. How have you?
Yeah, I can tell you objectively that the culture of commitment on PulseChain is much stronger. There's such a Jeet culture on Solana where it's like everybody's scamming everybody and they're almost blatantly, knowingly admitting it and doing it to themselves. And it's really all-time high of apathy and degeneracy. Base is a little different. It's like a fun area, but it's hard to find real genuine people and communities. And I think when you enter the PulseChain universe, you almost become entered into this reality TV show of like real people, for better or worse, and you can pick your poison of whoever you like to listen to. But there's a lot more creators and narrative storytellers on PulseChain, right? Whereas Base feels a little forced at times. I played around with some meme coins, actually made some good money on one of them. So, I don't want to bash an entire chain, but it just feels a little contrived. And then Solana just to me feels extremely like if you're not the smartest guy at the table, like if you don't know who the dumb guy is at the table, it's you, right? That's what Solana feels like.
Did you get any Trump coin at all?
I did, and I bought it at $7. Unfortunately, I was up and awake when it was like $1. Yeah. And then it went to $30 or whatever. But I learned my learning lesson from that was that sometimes if you're in the right place at the right time and you're early and you're early, the faster you can get through your cognitive dissonance or your denial, your anger, your bargaining, and then you get to your acceptance stage, the faster you can get over your ego, the more you can make money on some of those quick plays. And those don't come out very often, right? I've got $500 sitting on Binance Smart Chain just in case Kanye West decides to launch a coin. But for every, if I'm not in the right place at the right time, I'm not going to go chasing that coin either. So I should have just bought Trump as soon as it came out, just because it's fucking Donald Trump. Instead, I was like, no, that sounds ridiculous. I'll think about it. I'll wait till the morning. And then the morning comes around and it's, all the games are gone. So
yeah, it is. That's such an interesting way to look at it. You're right. Get over your cognitive dissonance, because we've all been there, right? And we're like, this, like, no, I don't want to accept this, and then you're kind of like,
yeah,
oh, maybe I should buy a little bit, and then you're like, oh fuck,
and then everyone else buys, and you get the FOMO. You really just got to force yourself to be on the left curve sometimes, or like be right curve enough to realize that we're all just going to be left curve for the most part.
Have you seen any people on, I don't know, on social media talk about coming over? They're fed up with Solana and Base, and they're trying out PulseChain, and they've converted.
I haven't heard any specific stories. I think there's some guys from the Base community that have come over due to various individuals. Like, congrats to all those guys building bridges on Base and whatnot. Solana's a weird place. Part of me making a meme coin in the next week and a half or so is going to be as kind of an excuse, a Trojan horse to target these other communities and almost try to speak their language a bit, knowing that there's infinitely more money outside of PulseChain, whether it's no coiners or even just Solana. There's so much liquidity out there that can flow in, and perhaps having a token that's not tied to the stigma of Richard Hart, that's just a simple meme token, doesn't do shit, it's just a funny picture, funny meme, enjoy it, and hopefully maybe that'll be. We're just trying different things. We're just throwing shit at the wall, man. We're just trying to see what sticks.
Man, you got to try it out. I mean, like I was going back to what we were talking about before, I hope people find out about PulseChain or even crypto through memes, and then they find out, okay, like you said, it's like a casino. It's black and red sometimes. I lose, I win some, I lose some. And then they get into, that's what I did when I first came into crypto. And then I found out about staking, and then liquidity. And obviously now we have liquid loans, Earn, Flex, Ink Printer. So I know that in this environment, utility isn't sexy, but let's hope people learn. And it is sexy when you're staking or you're stability providing a considerable amount, right? And you're bringing in hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah, all these decentralized stablecoins, and we have 4 of them, and they're amazing. I wish they'd be more well-known and used, because they're only as good as they are useful. They work fine. USDL, liquid loans, XDC for the Flex protocol, PXDC for the Earn protocol, and INCD for the Ink Printer protocol. I know you've been involved in at least 3 of those, maybe all 4. And it's kind of just, look, we have decentralized stablecoins with no counterparty risk that are backed by your core assets that you see on the screen right here. We've got all this awesome infrastructure. It's also a good way to take profit, right? Let's say the price goes up 50x and you want to sell without hurting the price. You could take out a massive loan on, let's say, HaxDC, take out a very minimally collateralized loan, liquidate yourself, and keep all those stable coins. You can also just provide a bunch of stablecoin liquidity and rack up transaction fees. I'd love to see all these protocols with more liquidity and more usage. But like you said, it's a matter of utility coming back in style, and everything is cyclical. It's hard to believe in something when the market currently wants something else. But what's the saying? Like, we can stay retarded longer than the market can stay retarded longer than you can stay solvent. Eventually, yeah, Warren Buffett. No, eventually, I think people will revert back to usefulness. I think the market will come back to what's actually useful, and stablecoins are incredibly useful.
Multiple uses for the protocol, but the one that you said, I think, is just when you get your head around it. I was explaining it to a friend the other day, right? And this guy, he was in crypto before he got out, and now he was an old Bitcoin and Ethereum guy, but he hasn't been in crypto for 6 or 7 years, or around that. And I was explaining liquidity and obviously the forks on PulseChain. And I mean, not financial advice, but like you said, if the price goes up 50x, you can mint yourself a big loan, have a risky collateral ratio, right, near 110%. If you get liquidated, you're going to sell anyway you don't hurt the price. If you don't get liquidated and it keeps on running, you can withdraw more out behind it because your vault has more collateral. So the price of the collateral has gone up, therefore you have a high collateral ratio. So there's multiple uses for it, but like you said, you could also take a loan, put it in LP, stability pool, staking, all these different things. But yeah, things are secular, and at the moment it's memes and it's dogs and it's butts, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's good to play both sides of the field, even if you don't think that meme coins are most meme coins have a long-term future. You could have your long-term holds, and you could also have your side bets and your little casino game, but just be very careful with wealth management, right? You don't want to hear somebody talk about, oh, believe in something, yeah, and then you go all in on peanut token, and it's like, but I thought you meant believe in something. It's like, well, there's a difference between blindly believing in something and believing that, like, fundamentally this product is sound and will be here in 10 years versus, oh, this meme coin was based off of a fad that was like a news article for a week, and now no one's going to talk about it ever again. But if you ride the waves, you can make a lot of money, and I've lost some and I've won some, and maybe I'm net positive, but my real optimism is for my conviction plays.
Yeah, I think like what you said is completely true. Have some side bets, have some plays, but don't people who are like, grabbing their all their PLS from the sacrifice, right, or whatever, and then they're betting it on a meme coin and then crying about it on Twitter. You've only got yourself to blame. And
yeah,
don't put all your eggs in one basket. And obviously, we have to look at our own confirmation bias, and we all have it. And people think that this is the next big thing, and look at the utility, and it's going to go to the moon. But history shows us that it's good to spread your bets. You have four. We have the blue chips right here on the screen now. There's other good stuff on PulseChain too, obviously. But it's weird, isn't it? Because a lot of people want to come into crypto to get rich overnight, and for every one person that got rich on Doge or Shiba Inu or whatever, right, there's thousands, 10,000 or not more who didn't. So just like everything, maybe it's definitely on a smaller scale than if you were doing legacy finance, because crypto is still early, but it requires patience, right? It requires not rushing into things.
Well, some of the reason that things like PLS and PulseX are considered blue chips is that you're betting on the casino itself. Owning PulseX is basically a bet that people are going to continue to trade whatever it is. And as long as the volume increases and the buy and burn increases, that's good for PulseX. It's good for Pulse because the network gets more usage, more fees are burned from block mining or proof of stake mining or whatever. Hex is just a store of value that needs to prove itself in its second cycle. And I think Richard's also been gearing up to ignite the spark on that one as well. Lowering the inflation rate was kind of an interesting deal. And all it's really going to take is a couple of X's in Hex for people to, realign their perception that, oh, it actually is nice to be able to earn long-term yield in this stable or in this long-term store of value.
Yeah, and as we see, when one pumps, they all pump. But personally, what I've seen is Hex normally rips a bit harder than the rest when it goes.
Doesn't it have lower liquidity? I think it is the easiest to pump. If you go to pampy.app, you can kind of project if you put $5 million of net buy pressure into one of these coins. I think Hex is actually the most pumpable. The liquidity is very thin. I think Richard's trying very hard to shake the tree right now with reducing INT rewards and reducing Hex yield for those rolling stakers. I'm trying to read that on your, it's got under $1 billion market cap if you exclude the OA. And it does have all the brand recognition too. It is, I think when people think of Richard Hart, Hex is probably their first thought. It's got 3 extra years of brand recognition than PulseChain does. I still see people not understanding. Like when I talk to some of my other crypto friends in real life, they're like, oh yeah, that Hex chain thing or whatever. And it's like they don't know that Hex is not a blockchain. So a lot of people have heard of it, but they don't fully understand it yet. And that's an advantage. I mean, the price is down. We do want as many whales to leave at the bottom, so they're less dead weight on the way up. We're all hoping it comes back. There is like the cycle 2 curse a little bit. But if you think about PHEX as a cycle 1 coin with a fresh chart, and again, low liquidity, it is very pumpable. And all it takes is a couple whales to light a spark, in my opinion. And that'll kick off FOMO buying. Like, we have totally forgot what it's like. We've forgotten what it's like in a bull market. A lot of people's expectations have gone down so much. Like, oh, we'd be lucky to get a 10x and stuff. This thing can still do it like a 500x. Like, wouldn't be that hard. We just retail hasn't truly been back. Dumb money is not truly in. I mean, people can barely afford food and rent, and like, there's dark times in the world. And like I said at the beginning, there are forces larger at play than what's going on in our tiny little microcosm.
It's true. It's true. Dude, do you remember, well, of course you do, the summer of 2021 when Richard announced PulseChain's coming and Hex just started ripping? Like,
yeah. I know. I wonder if he's saving another type of similar hype event for this current cycle that we're in. Maybe like his wallet launch, or he'll maybe, I don't. Do you really think Richard has another sacrifice left in him after everything that's happened this time? Uh-oh. We lost you. Oh no. Is that me or is that you? Yo, Matt, I can't hear you, dog. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. My other camera just went out, so I'm on my laptop camera. Can you see me?
That happens. Yeah, you're back.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So yes, what we were talking about was, has he got any tricks up his sleeve for this cycle? I hope so. I hope so, because you're right. I think we've forgotten how hard Hex can really rip when it gets going, and yeah, we all hope it's going to come back. It's weird, isn't it? Because when it's ripping, everyone's like, there's thousands of X more. There's another 10,000 X in there. When it's down, it's like we'll be lucky to get a 5X or a 10X.
Yeah. And it's hard because when we're all playing with the same cohort of people, there's not that many new people coming to the poker table. Most people just see the meme coins of the day that are pumping 10X, 20X overnight. And they think that's where all the value is. And they're kind of right. But a lot of that stuff is insider cabals that won't carry the torch much longer than a couple of months.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what do you think for the rest of this year? Obviously, we haven't seen the bull market that many thought was going to happen in early 2025, the Bitcoin halving. Do you think we're going to see a bull market? Obviously, you haven't got a crystal ball, but what do you feel?
I would like to believe that. I think it's been a rough time. It's been very soul crushing for a lot of people, and that includes me at times. I'm just like, man, there's not even a glimmer of optimism. Now hopefully all this Trump stuff blows over. Hopefully the Federal Reserve just lowers rates, and I think it really is as simple as that. The Fed cutting rates, money getting easier to get, credit becoming easier to get. And hopefully we can enter this golden age that there was so much pre-election propaganda regarding this golden timeline. It doesn't feel like anything's fundamentally changed. Like I mentioned, these tariff things end in negotiations, from what I've been seeing and hearing. And the more we just mindlessly consume the news and doom scrolling through all this fear porn, the more it's going to make you feel like the world is ending, when I think the setup has still never been better in all of human history. You've got banks are now allowed to hold crypto. Everybody's going to start opening their own ETFs to capture those trading fees. Global financial wealth, like trillions of dollars, it can now flow into crypto. And I guess as long as we have something that's even somewhat relevant, and I would argue that PulseChain is way more relevant than we realize. I think PulseChain has the biggest organic community out there that's not paid for. And I think a lot of this Solana and Base stuff, not to bash them too hard, but they've got a lot of money and hedge funds and insider investors that can kind of manufacture demand. And for that reason, a lot of these chains are going to do well. Binance Smart Chain is going to do well. They've got an entire exchange behind them. PulseChain's got organic social engagement power with a phenomenal mastermind marketing genius founder. There's going to be multiple winners. And I think people that are investing in their conviction plays, whether it's Solana or Sonic, formerly Phantom or whatever it is on Binance Smart Chain or Avalanche, these things are all still going to pump. It's just that again, without new money and with uncertainty in the markets, you've got the same crypto bros circling their money around, slushing the money around. And I guess what you get out of that is a meme coin casino. So I might as well try to have fun until the hordes of people come back.
Yeah, I think that's, again, like your content, level-headed, not crazy hopium, but just looking at things as they are. Nothing's changed. And if you look back through history, of course, now there's stuff going on in the world, right? But there's always something going on. Before this, it was COVID. COVID was going to end everything. Then it was Putin and Trump, or we're going to nuke each other, right? Or whatever. And it's always something. You could go back through all the history books at the beginning of time, and there's always something that the world's going to end now. It's going to be over. North Korea is going to push the button, or whatever.
There's a book about that. There's a book called, I think it's like The Brink of Apocalypse or something. It talks about, since the beginning of history, there's always been a large portion of humanity that thinks that we are on the brink of literal apocalypse. We always pull through. I think you don't want to be so delusionally optimistic that you just sit around and say, oh, well, it's all going to be fine, so I don't need to do any work. But you do need to be delusionally optimistic enough to not downward spiral and then just become frozen in fear, right? If we just think about all the terrible things that could happen, I mean, then we're just stuck, and we did it to ourselves. Whereas, like, we know it's all going to work out. Let's just try to make it so that we are on the right side of history when it does.
There's always terrible things going on. I remember when I was a kid, showing my age here, it was in the 90s and the first Gulf War. And I remember, again, there was always the Cold War stuff with Russia. I remember as a kid thinking, oh, when I get older, I guess this will all be sorted out and then there'll be no more problems. So naive. So naive. Yeah. And I grew up, and guess what? There was more. There was the second Gulf War, and there was 9/11. And, it's when whatever's going on right now, the culture war, the trade war, the Ukraine and Russia conflict. Once this is done, there'll be something else, right? Because that's life. That's human civilization. This is just humans interacting with each other. There's conflict. There's ups and downs. And I think you're right. Make the most of it, and don't become apathetic and say there's no point. But also don't become obviously look at the climate and see what's going on and adjust your life and your investment strategies around obviously what's happening.
Yeah, we can only do so much. What if everybody just kind of has a little bit of agency, and I think does what's within our control, that can alleviate some of the anxiety out there about all the stuff that's not in our control, which is most stuff. But I mean, hopefully everybody acting just trying to make the world slightly better. As long as like 51% of the world is leaning a little bit positive, then we're going to trend in the right direction. I mean, technically, and it sucks to hear this too, because you're like, life is fucking hard right now for a lot of people, but it really also is true that even like a very poor person today has a better life than, a king in the 1500s. Yeah. So we've got, if you've got a refrigerator in your house and, a stove and heat and a roof over your head, we've got stuff to be grateful for. I know everybody, myself included, we're living probably pretty frugally, but these are the times to build and to plan and to hopefully reap the rewards, whether it takes 6 more months or 2 more years.
Wise words as always, man. Wise words. And talking about going back to PulseChain, it launched 2 years to the day next month at some point, and how much utility now. I mean, I've started streaming again recently. It was dead for a while. Wasn't much to talk about, but now we've had Jexa on recently about the Vouch protocol. Do you know about Vouch?
I do know about Vouch. What do you think about it?
I think it's legit. I think it's a legit way to.
But here's the thing about liquid staking derivatives. They're great. They're highly successful on Ethereum. We've got 3 of them on PulseChain. You've got Project Pi, you've got Vouch, and respect to all those guys. They're hard workers. I know them. I know both of those teams. But then we've also got the UP token with their crazy 25% APY Validator X. And that the APY there is just blowing the other 2 out of the water. And do you have a preference between any of them?
I need to look at the UP token. I don't know too much about. Jexer, I trust. I know I like whatever he works on. So I do like Vouch. Yourself, are you more into the up token?
I guess I trust that all teams are going to act with integrity, and Project Pi and Vouch, I think, have gotten audits. I really like the up token team. I think they're very smart. It is concerning. It's always concerning when you're handing over your pulse to somebody else and just hoping that their system works. And I don't know if there was a technical audit in the up token Validator X system, but man, they are just mining so many blocks and sharing all the rewards back with the users rather than taking it for the protocol that their average APY is 25%, which is 2.5x. That's hard to argue with, right? And they've got this other really cool system coming out called LPX, which is basically a trading bot that you can deploy on any pair, and they'll buy low, sell high, and make the market. It's a market maker bot that makes healthy volume and creates profit at the same time. I could say good things about all of them, but I guess right now I'm leaning towards the one that pays me the most yield.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone do their own research, but we've got lots of cool stuff on PulseChain. We've got stuff like that, Vouch. I've had Fast Abdul on recently with Ink Printer. I had the Midgard Viking team. Nice. What do you think about Midgard?
Are they really Viking? Are they Nordic?
They are. They're all, I think the team is, pretty much all from Norway, or maybe one of them isn't, but I think he's still a Viking, maybe Danish.
Fuck yeah. Go Norway.
So
I like it a lot. I think we needed one, right? Like there's this, and then there's also Tech Explorer, which I think was the Tangang's version. They both work better than the default scanner.
Yeah, and it looks cool as well. I like the UX here. This is something that I think PulseChain needed, right? A cool block explorer. You've got some cool features. For anyone who wants more info on this, check out the previous stream I did. And it's just,
Is it still indexing?
So last week it still was. Yeah, I think there's a bit more indexing to do, but they have a different way of indexing. So it's not as it's a hybrid indexing theory or system or whatever. So it's not as slow as obviously other block explorers. It's pretty fast. We were using it live on stream last week. But last week, I was told it was still indexing. So I'm not sure where we're at now. But lots of cool stuff on here, favorites, and there's other stuff coming where you can visualize transactions. And have you seen that at all? Where it's kind of like I haven't got access to it at the moment, but if you got the stream that I did last week with them, they showed me that they have this on ETH where it's like where you can see a transaction. It's got lots of like lines coming out of it, right? And you can see, for example,
right.
You can visualize the wallet and what it's doing and where it's sending and who it's interacting with, and that's coming soon. So just stuff like this, Vouch, Ink Printer, so much more stuff coming all the time. We're about to get Hex Scouts just tweeted, right? Like you tweeted out about obviously a fiat on ramp. So stuff's here, stuff's coming. SEC's gone away, hopefully for good. And I think it's good times ahead.
Yeah, we've got all the puzzle pieces aligning, and I really respect everybody. I'm very grateful for all the people that didn't give up and that went even harder, that took it into their own hands to build all the things that a true network needs. And a lot of times without even getting funding. Like I really I want this ecosystem to perform so well that everybody gets compensated by their investment, right? Like just for sticking with it. Because building a block explorer is really hard, and it's a thankless job because you don't necessarily get paid off of a token. Do they have a token?
No, there's no. Actually, I'm not sure about that. There was no sacrifice, but maybe they do have a token. I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm not sure about.
It's I really appreciate everyone doing this kind of stuff, and the same thing with Internet Money Wallet, and I could just go on and on. The Coast protocol, we've got our own centralized exchange, 0x Coast. We've got, I mean, everything is really good. It's just a matter of time before people give a shit about crypto, and until this whole thing just gets easier. Crypto still sucks. The user experience still sucks. I think when everyone maybe has a crypto wallet baked into their phone, and people can just use it by default with most of their existing banking apps. But that's maybe 5 to 10 years away. So
I think so. We need until it goes fully mainstream, right? Like my mum and dad and aunties and uncles, they're just going to carry on using their Visa card, right? Their Amex. Why because it's much easier.
Yeah. And do you remember like those early videos of when Burger King first started accepting cards? They're like, well, I don't know why anybody would need a credit card for a $5 burger or for a $2 burger. And now it's like, everybody and their mother uses a credit card for everything. So
that's true.
Yeah. When you talk to normal people, like what do they complain about most when you talk to people about onboarding them into crypto?
They just don't know, like, they don't know what it is. They're like, what is it? Like, I don't even know what it is. Yeah. Like every time, like I've got there's where I live, some places accept crypto for certain things. Some like there's a clinic where you can do vitamin IV drips and stuff. And he's got a guy who does the crypto for him, and he's like, the guy who owns it says, I don't know what it is. I don't know, like, what is it? How do I get it? Like,
yeah,
basically, he's got a broker that gives him cash. People send the crypto, and he gets the cash. And I'm like, you have to tell them, okay, it's like, it's digital assets on a blockchain, and you can't take them off the blockchain, because he's like, can I put them in my wallets? They can't be stolen. I'm like, they're always on the blockchain.
It is very ethereal. It's a very, very esoteric thing.
Yeah, it's very esoteric, and they're like, what is it though? How does it get its value? And well, it gets its value because people give it value, just like we give Rolex's value. But then if everyone tomorrow turned around and said we don't care about Rolexes, their value would drop, right? The same with everything. Things are giving value because people get together and agree this is now valuable. Bitcoin, Ethereum, PulseChain, Hex, the list goes on. So I think you need education first, and to break it down, you need simplicity on a wallet, on a phone. Everyone's on their smartphone 24/7, so it just needs to be very, very simple, very easy. As you know, even now, logging on to Binance or Kraken, for most people, that looks like the inside of a spaceship when you open it up, right?
Yeah, it does. It does.
And especially if you go to a pair. Huh?
Too many buttons, too many ticker symbols. It's like, what the fuck?
Ticker symbols and things moving in real time, and it just needs to be simplified. It just needs to be simplified, really, really simple. Just like, I guess, have you heard about this whole craze where people are going back to these dumb phones because they're fed up with? Yeah, I might be one of them soon.
Really?
Yeah. No, I don't know. My friend sent me this video on one called the was it the light phone? Or I don't know.
The nothing phone.
Is that what it was nothing? It was something. What's the nothing phone?
Oh, I think that's a real thing where it's just a phone that's like an Android OS that's stripped of almost every function except for messaging and calling.
Yeah, I'd need WhatsApp, and the one I had my eye on didn't have WhatsApp on it yet, so I think I need WhatsApp. But like it just goes back to simplicity, and I think that's what you need for crypto. It just needs to be like buy, sell, send. I think Trust Wallet before, if I remember correctly, were quite simple.
Yeah, I think Rabby got very close to being the killer wallet, and I hope that Internet Money becomes like one of the mainstream wallets, because what people just want is to automatically see their tokens, see their little picture logo, see the USD value, and aggregate the whole USD value without having to like copy and paste the contract address and do all this complicated shit. I was pretty pissed about Rabby. It did feel like a big step backwards, but I'm rooting for you guys, KG and Internet Money. Can't come fast enough.
Yeah. Let's hopefully they, KG has been working on that for what? Since I can remember. I've been streaming with him back in 2 years ago, and rooting for those guys because
he's working hard, man. But a wallet is
Rabby stepped away.
A wallet is a very difficult thing because it's kind of, if you fuck that up, it's like, man, that's everybody's money that's on the line. So you definitely want to go slow, but I appreciate Internet Money so far.
For sure. Yeah, going back to what we were talking about though, what do we need for more integration? Yeah, simplicity, because at the moment there's too much of a barrier for people who are more tech savvy and are more open to it. And a lot of people could do it, but because there's too many barriers in the way, they're just like, no, right? I don't want to say, I don't want to, and it's a weird balance because people are going to need a seed phrase, right? Otherwise they can get hacked and what's not, but then it can't be too complicated. Otherwise
the seed phrase loses a lot of people, doesn't it? They just don't want to write those words down. It's like you can't make them understand until they actually lose all their money.
The good thing about DeFi is you are your own bank. The bad thing is you are your own bank, right? And they want a hotline to call and say, hey, I sent my money to the wrong address, or, you know, I don't know what to do with this, and an agent talk them through it. Unfortunately, the only agents you're going to get is a Nigerian accent or something like that.
Trying to talk. There is no Coinbase support, and it just happened to a good friend of mine. It's pretty sad because super smart guy, brilliant fucking dev, and even he got a phone call from what was supposed to be Coinbase support, and it was very insidious because he did have an open ticket with Coinbase, right? So somehow these scammers knew that he had a ticket open and called him, which first of all, they'll never call you, right? They'll never, and then started asking him all these personal questions, and they got him to give up his seed words for all of his Tron or something. So it was a pretty, he's going to be okay, but it's just a really annoying setback. And then a lot of people, they get to that point and they're just like, well, fuck crypto. I don't want anything to do with this bullshit. Luckily that guy, he's still in the game. And that's the most important thing you could do is try not to get hacked, but don't give up if you do. Spread your wallets around, have more than one wallet. Don't connect your public
hardware wallets.
Yeah, hardware wallets. All stuff that I talk about in my course, and I'm sure you talk about it a lot too.
And don't give up, all right? That's an analogy for crypto and for life. I met a guy about a month or two ago, a friend of a friend. He lost about 900K in Luna in the at the height of coffee's just dropped off there. Hopefully he's going to come back on at the height of the Luna crash, and he couldn't even look at crypto for he says 2 years, 3 years before he started to dip his toe in. He was traumatized from it. But it looks like we've lost crypto coffee, unfortunately. But we've been going for nearly an hour, so it's time to wrap it up.
I'm still here. I'm still here. We can keep going if you want to. It's up to you.
It's okay, man. I think an hour is good. It's good to come. It's good to go on for an hour and talk. Are you still there, or what happened to your camera?
Yeah, I'm here. Just had a issue with my my headphones. Hold on a second.
No worries. But yeah, I was just talking about this guy who lost close to $1 million in Luna, or whatever he had in the protocol. Obviously, staking. What it was, LSD or whatever, the Luna stable coin, and then he lost whatever he had. He couldn't get it out, and he lost close to $1 million. And he was traumatized, and he just got back into crypto in the last year because he said he couldn't even look at crypto. He was so traumatized afterwards.
$1 million. That's a pretty big amount.
That's pretty serious. But man, it's been great to see you. We've been going for an hour. I think that's a perfect time to wrap it up. Anything else to say before we wrap it up?
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And everybody go check out PowerCity.io. I think what you built is pretty awesome. And I do believe one day the market will become rational and then start to use this kind of stuff more. So hang in there.
Thanks, man. And you're on X, you're on Instagram, you're on...
That's right. Crypto Coffee 369 on everything. And please don't fall for imposters. I've been seeing a lot of them lately. I will never DM you. I will never ask for your private keys. Be careful.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot, and come back on again soon. And let's not leave it so long.
Will do, bro.
Cheers, man. Thanks for watching, guys. And you can check out any of the PowerCity live dApps now in the description box below. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next one.